impeded some citizens' right to vote. The delay that was most pronounced in Bulawayo, in Harare, and in Manicaland appeared to have disproportionately affected some opposition strongholds. The legal framework could have provided an adequate basis for the conduct of credible elections if implemented properly.
Hello viewers, welcome back paMuZai TV. Pano patinokupa nhau dzakasiyana-siyana, ma-updates ezviri kutranidzwa kumatsvimana enyika nedzimwe nzvimbo dzakatikomberedza. Masikati anawa ndine vhidhiyo randakubatirai panapa rechikwata che-European Union Election Observer Mission icho chapawo its final report pama-elections akaitwa muZimbabwe musi wa23 August. Asi pachikwata ichi chakwanisa kunge chichipa its 21 recommendations zvikuru sei chakanangana nechikwata cheZEC nezvimwe zvakatora nzvimbo munyika yeZimbabwe zvakalidha kuti ma-elections emuZimbabwe they were not free and fair. Nokuda pabatwa nhau yemayo kunonoka kusvika kwakaitwa ma-by-elections kunzvimbo dzakatsaukana, especially kumadhorobha uko kwaizikanwa kuti vaChamisa ndiko kwavakanga vane chaunga chakanyanya. 2 kwakaonekwa chikwata cheForever Association of Zimbabwe kana kuti FAS chiasauta vanhu vachishungurudza vanhu panguva yema-elections zvinova izvo zvavanga vachiti zvitenderwe futi pamitemo yeSADC. 3 vataura zvakare pachikwata cheZEC kuti chakatora kana kuti ZEC iri kufungidzirwa kuti inotora a political side zvinova izvo zvinozokonzeresa kuti pasave nema-free and fair election plus kunonoka kwakaita ma-by-elections kaisingadi kunyanya kutora nguva yenyu yakanyanya. Noti muzvinzwiri kupa this video mazonza zvamunofunga mucomment section. Asi kana chiri first time to be here, feel free to subscribe on this channel. Zvonobetsera channel yangu ikune. Also turn on the notification bell that post button upload zvinowana you will be notified.
Impeded some citizens' right to vote. The delay that was most pronounced in Bulawayo, in Harare, and in Manicaland appeared to have disproportionately affected some opposition strongholds. The legal framework could have provided an adequate basis for the conduct of credible elections if implemented properly. Recent legal changes, including the passage of the so-called patriotic provisions to the Criminal Code, the legislative work on the private voluntary organizations, the PVO bill, and the selective implementation of the Maintenance of Peace and Order Act, the NPOA, underline the closing space for the exercise of freedoms of association, assembly, and expression. Citizen observers face severe restrictions due to a shrinking space for civic activities, and also due to administrative barriers, pressure, consistent intimidation, and even mass arrests on election day that I could witness personally, unfortunately. A raid took place on election night where some 40 members of key reputable citizens observers organization who are part of the internationally recognized global network of domestic election monitors, the GIMDEM. They have been arrested for, and I quote the police in this quote, coordinating the alleged release of election results. That is somehow also their normal job and duty to follow exactly and observe the elections. They were held without legal counsel for some 12 hours, and although released on bail, they are still nowadays facing upcoming court proceedings. During the post-electoral period, the yeEU observed a climate of retribution against civil society, human rights defenders, and political party activists, and even against voters. While the yeEU cannot comment on any developments after its departure, we were notified of allegedly politically motivated abductions and even torture. These reports include the recent murder of an opposition activist. I strongly and firmly condemn any violence that has occurred. There is no space for retribution, for harassment, for torture, and for murder in a democratic society. We encourage the authorities to bring the perpetrators swiftly to justice. Against the backdrop on how these elections were conducted and the post-electoral political climate, the yeEU offers 21 recommendations with 7 as priority. In particular, the yeEU considers that comprehensive and meaningful electoral reform is needed. This especially relates to the right to stand, to associate and to express freely, not limited by bureaucratic barriers such as the undue nomination fees. This is critical to bring legislation in line with the regional and international standards espoused by Zimbabwe. It would be necessary that the Zimbabwean authorities show the political will to engage in these reforms to lay the ground for a genuine and credible elections in the future. The yeEU also recommends that measures are taken to ensure that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, ZEC, and its staff are able to operate without political influence at all levels, including in their appointment mechanism and by removing governmental approval of its regulations. Further, the yeEU recommends that ZEC provides timely and comprehensive information on all the aspects of the electoral preparations to the public, including its decisions and its regulations, and that ZEC publishes timely electoral results disaggregated by polling station. This is crucial also for our work. To safeguard the right of assembly, it is recommended to amend the Maintenance of Peace and Order Act, the MPOA that I was quoting before, to limit discretionary application and to ensure that its implementation never unduly limits the right to assemble. And to safeguard the independence of the judiciary, our yeEU recommends as well reviewing the appointment procedure of judges to guarantee a real separation of powers. Further on, the yeEU recommends to establish and to implement effective mechanisms to prevent all the undue restrictions on observation activities and to prevent pressure and intimidation to both citizen and international observers. To debunk any disinformation, allow me to clarify why we are presenting, unfortunately I would say, the final report here in Brussels. As per the EU's long-term election observation methodology, the yeEU was meant to return to the country some 2-3 months after the elections. That was, of course, our will. The purpose of this return visit, and it is standard practice for all yeEUs, is to present the mission's final report to the authorities and the public within the country in which we have been observing. The yeEU would also discuss the conclusions and the recommendations with local stakeholders in the country to determine possible ways forward to implement the recommendations made, and of course to engage in a cooperation if that is the will, again, of the hosting country. The return visit of the yeEU Zimbabwe was foreseen in the administrative arrangement that was signed by the EU delegation and the Zimbabwe Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Unfortunately, the conditions did not allow for it to take place. Prior to the deployment of the mission, it became clear that the Zimbabwean authorities lacked the political will to allow the yeEU return visits to be carried out according to its long-standing methodology. This includes key activities such an inclusive and robust dialogue around the report, of course, and its recommendations with a wide range of stakeholders, including civil society, media, political parties. They did not provide any reason for why they saw a need to put restrictions on these visits. The yeEU highlights that this administrative arrangement stipulates also that Zimbabwean authorities should have granted the mission access to all relevant interlocutors. Yet, the mission faced significant challenges to meet with official bodies at the national level, despite repeated requests and also a good level of flexibility from our side. These include Just to give a very clear example of what I'm saying, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, the ZEC, which the yeEU was only able to meet once in all our observation, and which was unfortunately equally unavailable for meetings with the chief observer, with me, and the European Parliament delegation, the other colleagues from Parliament that came to observe on the ground. While, let me underline also this aspect, other observer organizations were granted repeated access several times. Such behavior is unprecedented in my long time as a politician, parliamentarian, and election observer. This is something that really surprised me and shocked me at the same time. This lack of meaningful access was coupled with an extensive, coordinated, and continued disinformation campaign against the yeEU and the other international observation efforts on the part of some national media. This reporting was based on lies and violated any journalistic standards. These lies, published particularly by state media, put in danger the safety of our observers on the ground. While we do recognize the independence of the media, of course, we took note also that the government did not respond any time to this defamation campaign, despite its commitment in the administrative arrangement to ensure the personal safety of all the members of the yeEU. While the yeEU concludes its work with today's presentation, the EU will continue to be available for the assistance. Aspirations of the citizens of Zimbabwe to live in a free and in a democratic society is a core principle of the European Union and of our action, one that the European Union will always defend no matter what. Thank you for your attention.